As background, this past Tuesday at club leaders meeting, once a month the community association has a club leaders meeting. Kim was there. She's a leader for the Wisconsin club. Lisa always comes with me, primarily because of a miniature club, and I like to go and cover what's going on for the radio. And Jeff always gets up and talks. And Jeff got up and talked, and his face turned to stone. And I thought, uh-oh, what did he do? He didn't do anything. He told us a story about two households in this community who in the last month have been scammed out of $1.5 million.
Yep.
I've never seen your face look like that in the 7 years that I have known you. I've never seen your face look like that. It was just immediately turned to stone when you were talking about that, and it was breaking your heart. I could tell, and and that's why I went. I said, okay, we're going to put this on the air. You're coming in on Thursday. Put this on the air. I have no idea how many people listen to this radio station. I hope it's more than 3. I just don't know.
We've got 5 in here. So
okay, so I hope it's
listening. Exactly. We're just here to talk.
I hope it's more than 8. But no, seriously. Let's talk about that for a minute.
So
go ahead. You tell the story much better.
Well, the last couple weeks, it's been nonstop. Trying to gather up and get people to make reports. And, for 6.5 years, I've said we've got an issue with scams. That's our biggest issue. It's not speeding. It's not golf carts after dark. It's not burglaries or thefts. It is 100% all day, every day. It is economic scams. And, I tout it, and I know people are probably like, goodness, will you just shut up about it? But I'm telling you, that's what continually hurts and victimizes our residents, and on a larger scale. I mean, I've got 2 right now. I've got a romance scam where the victim over 6 months lost $835,000. I mean, let me say that again, $835,000. I've got a couple who was involved in a lottery publishers clearinghouse scam, and over 3 years they lost over 700. I've tabulated it to over 700,000, and I guarantee you there's more to that one.
Yeah, and
that's the one when you saw me turn to stone. So I'm gonna walk you through this, and it's gonna take us a minute.
That's why I gave extra time. Go for
it. So the bank calls me up and says, hey, there's this couple. They've got their money markets overdrawn, their checking accounts overdrawn. They're in here trying to get cash out again, and I've noticed some irregular withdrawals. $3,000-$4,000 here, $5,000-$6,000 here. And oh, by the way, they just sold their car a month ago, and all of a sudden have no money from that car. That quick. And she's like, it seems like the last, year or so, money has been coming out of the account faster than it's going in. Go do a welfare check on them. So I go and I sit down with this couple, and they live here in Sun City Center. I don't know how long they've been together, but I go and I sit down, and they've got a pile of mail and letters and stuff on their breakfast table. And I look, and it's the same junk mail we've got, this and that, but then there's a lot of gift card receipts. There's a lot of bank statements, and there's bank statements that say closed by the bank. There's bank statements that say in collections by the bank. There's a investment account statement, and the graph, I kid you not, says your investments over the last, they do the little graph on there, and it is a complete 100% nosedive. I mean, I've got photographs of it, and it's like 500 something to under $100,000, and we're talking within 12-month period. Yeah. And there's no reason for, realistically, in retirement, you're not spending that kind of cash that fast.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to them, and they're part of they got caught up about 3 years ago in a publishers clearinghouse scam. They were going to win $22 million. And, it started a little, a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there. And over the last 3 years, they've taken at least $700,000 from the couple. Now, they sold their car, right? And they sent the bad guys the proceeds. They mortgaged a completely paid off house that had been paid off for years. They mortgaged it, sent the proceeds to the bad guys. They then sold their house to an investment firm, reacquired the mortgage. So they're paying rent and the mortgage. They sent the proceeds from that sale to the bad guys. They've got my magnets on their fridge. They're involved in volunteer organizations here in Sun City Center. So we're not talking about somebody who's shut in. We're not talking about somebody who doesn't read the newspaper. They've got my green magnets that I gave out a couple years ago. They've got 2 of them on their fridge. I'm staring at them and I'm my heart's breaking. They're sitting there, they're telling me, we've got less than $200,000 now to live out the rest of our days. And we're probably going to have to move in with one of them's son, which is nowhere here in Florida. So, but here it keeps going. So I call the investment house because everything else they have no money and everything's closed except for one bank account and one investment house. Out of everything they had, that's all that's left. I call them. I say, hey, they're behind on rent. I'm like, will you make sure that their rent gets paid? Yes, absolutely. We'll take care of it, Deputy Mayor. We got it. Okay, good. And I tell them, I'm like, all right, y'all got, make sure they got food. Look, your utilities are on. Your rent's getting paid. Well, I get a call from them the next week. The following week was last week. It was Veterans Week. And so I'm like, why are they calling me? So I go over to the house and I'm asked if I have an X-ray machine. And I'm like, no, I don't normally carry around an X-ray machine. And they said, well, the bad guys sent us a safe, and they had sent them a $40 Honeywell home safe. And they told them that there was $500,000 in cash in the safe. It didn't weigh $500,000 worth of cash, but they told them it was $500,000 worth of cash in the safe. And if they sent them more money, they would give them the code. Well, the brokerage house that I had talked to on Friday, instead of sending the money directly to the rent, wired it to the couple. The couple pulled it out on Tuesday, got Visa Vanilla gift cards, and sent all $2,000 for the code for the safe, which didn't even have batteries in it. It was one of those little, numerical push buttons. Yeah. It didn't even have batteries in it. And, they told me, oh, well, it's going to blow up if you try to break into it. And there's $500,000 in there. Well, Friday morning, I broke into it, when I got my hands on it, and there was a Bible, nothing but a Bible in there. And I'm like, look, do you see? Can you see? This is, I was here for hours last Friday. This is a scam. I'm like, and you've told me that people at the bank and people at your brokerage house have told you that it's a scam, and you're not listening. But I think that they've gone so far down the rabbit hole that if it's not, they're, like that guy at the craps table, he's going to be broke or he's going to be rich, and there's no in between. Yeah. So the story continues. Yes, the story continues. The story continues.
Go ahead.
So bank calls me Tuesday after I get out of the community leaders meeting. Hey, they were here trying to get more cash out of their account, but as you know, it's overdrawn because they took all the remaining cash out last week. They were telling me it's for rent. So I go over and I'm like, why are y'all getting cash out? Oh, we got to pay rent. I'm like, no. Monday I called the investment house and told the investment house to send the rent directly to the landlords, please. And they said they would. And they're like, well, we need money for rent. So I called the investment house back on Tuesday, and they're like, no, we're sending the rent directly. And here's a direct quote from the investment brokerage house. We've watched this happen over the last few years. You want to talk about being mad and being upset and being disappointed?
Knowing you as well as I know you, you wanted to go across the table and tear somebody's throat out.
They're not looking out for you.
No.
They're not There's no way. It's happened over the last 3 years. You couldn't block some of it, flag some of it. You couldn't send some over to their house. You couldn't. I mean, there's a whole host of things that you could have done instead of standing there. Oh, we watched it happen. Well, what have you done? You may have told them, but let's get something. So, now I've got their family attorney involved. Now I got their family involved. Now we've got, all their accounts basically locked out other than direct bill pay from the financial institution. And we're trying to, cause they got less than $200,000 and they're not in bad shape. They're going to live a few more years.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got rent and a mortgage. Okay. Plus living expenses.
Yeah.
That's not a lot to live on.
No.
At all. From what they had. So and like I said, the saga continues.
Yeah.
And they still don't believe that it's a
No.
scam. That's the sad part.
I don't know if they don't believe it, or I don't know if they're just to the point that they have to ride it out, that they have to go all the way to the bottom. Some people, I'm hard headed. Some people have to get all the way to the bottom before
It's
they
like
can
a drug
realize.
addiction. You have to hit bottom before you can come back up.
Yeah.
I think they're at the point where they just, like you said, they're so far down the rabbit hole that to admit at this point that it's all completely a scam and they gave it all away is probably more than they can mentally handle.
And
Probably.
I've spent hours, talking with them and I tell them the same thing I tell y'all. It's not, it happens.
Yeah.
But let's get out of it. And then,
Well, you came close. You came close
Yes.
because you were running in the car and a bank, you thought the bank called you.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden the light bulb went off over your head.
yes.
But it almost happened to you.
Yep.
And we have been called, it almost happened to Kim. Okay. And we have been called. I got a call once, that my grandson, it's, Grandpa, I says, Mikey, is that you? Yeah, it's me, Mike. I'm in jail, Grandpa. Oh, gee, that's too bad. Let me tell you what I can do for you. Absolutely nothing, you son of a bitch. I don't have a grandson. Now, for those of you with sensitive ears, apologize, but still,
This is speaking
Well,
radio.
yeah.
And you were at the community leaders meeting,
Oh, yeah.
and one of the community leaders says, "I've got a friend who sold their house, is living in their car, and is still in the midst of a romance scam." And I know exactly who it is because I've talked to that person 5, 6, 7 times. I've given that person what's called a money mule letter from the FBI saying, if you continue to do it, we're going to have to prosecute you. I mean, I know exactly when she said she sold her house, and I know who that is, and I know how much loss that is.
The question arises, if you have a family member or a friend who's in the midst of this, what steps can you do? You can tell them, and if they won't listen to you as a police officer and they won't listen to the FBI, what can, a son or a daughter or a cousin or whatever do to help them?
So a family member, there's several things a family member can do. First thing is, if you're to the point, some people, once I walk in the door, they realize, oh my gosh, you're right, it's a scam. They stop. So the $835,000 romance scam, the moment I hit the door, the victim was like, I had an inkling. Yeah. They were like, I had an inkling the last couple of weeks because it got really shady. And, so they got them now. Were they brokenhearted? Did they grieve? Are they still going through that process? 100%. But they've stopped sending the money. But if I've been there a few times, if family's been there a few times, at that point, you got to do a third party fiduciary. You've got to do a guardianship, even an injunction against elderly exploitation if we have to. I mean, I don't want to say draconian steps, but if they're not listening to the legal officials and they're not listening to they're not listening to their financial, they're not listening to this whole host of people in front of them, then that's at the point where you got to remove that money from them. And that's what we've had to do with this couple. We've had to basically lock off what they have left, and we're trying to get a third party fiduciary appointed to control that money.
So if you're a friend of somebody and you see it happening and they're not listening to you, we call the sheriff's department and have you or whoever come in and talk to them, and they're still not doing it. They're still not. What steps would happen? It's not a family member. It's just somebody that you know. Maybe
Right.
they don't have a family, or maybe their family is disinterested, because not everybody has a real close, especially close financial relationship.
Right.
Some people are very secretive about their money, and they don't want their kids to know. It depends on the relationship.
Right. Well, so typically what happens is if I go in the first time and they don't stop, it continues, the friends or family will call me again. And typically at the third time I hit the door is the time when I start trying to figure out, all right, who's your attorney? Because attorneys can petition the court. Who is somebody that, might be family member that could be a fiduciary? Because again, at that point, you're a harm to yourself. You're gonna get to the point where you have no money, because the bad guys don't care. They will drain you of everything. The example, the lady sold her house and sent the proceeds and is living in her car. At that point, you're neglecting yourself. So we've got to get something involved. And like I said, friends, family members, just call me. Hey, they're still doing it. Hey, they're still doing it. And then we'll go from there.
What'd you have, Kim?
Well, last night I had my first club event for the Wisconsin Club in over 18 months, and I went and got cards from Jeff's office. And as part of my address to my club last night, I told them about what was shared with us on Tuesday morning at the club leaders meeting. And I had Jeff's cards on the table because I said, look, I understand it could be tricky to confront somebody about what you think is going on. But one thing you can do is you can call Jeff, and Jeff will do a welfare check. And I guarantee you, once he gets in the door and he starts a conversation and he figures out something's going on, he's going to be like, he's going to keep digging and digging and digging until he figures it out. And the other reason I did it was because I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday that didn't know that Jeff was our resource deputy dedicated to our community. Now, I was gobsmacked, but okay.
Yeah.
How dare they not know?
I know.
Well, yeah.
I said to them over the phone, I go, and I won't use the language. I went, are you kidding me? It's like,
Do you listen to radio? Do you read the newspaper? Do you, email blasts?
Keep her around. I like her.
It's not me. Remember, we found that out earlier.
Yeah, it's me. It's me. But 813-242-5115.
Oh my goodness.
5515.
Now everybody's confused.
813-242-5515 is the phone number for Jeff's desk.